The title of this incident is New Windsor's Finest. This is being recorded August 23rd, 2020. It occurred October 2nd, 1994 in New Windsor, New York. I'm Jack Lynch. I was involved. My wife, Patty Lynch, was involved, as were the fire department and police department of New Windsor, the people involved that were victims of the accident. My wife's favorite nephew, Gig, was to be married. The ceremony was to be in Poughkeepsie. Patty and I arranged for childcare for our little boys. We got plane tickets. We flew back, rented a car, went to the wedding. That evening, we got a motel room over in New Windsor. Old friend of mine from New Jersey came up, and we sat around talking most of the night. The next morning, we were to be driving back to Pennsylvania to see an old friend. I thought it would be a good idea for Patty to at least get a look, get an eyeball on West Point. We'd driven around Newburgh and New Windsor the day before. I wanted her to see West Point. So we packed up. We got on to 9W, heading south. Patty was driving, I was riding shotgun. We're in the right lane, doing the speed limit, maybe a little bit slower. Ahead of us in the left lane, about 150 feet, was an old white pickup truck with a couple, 20-somethings in it. And they're talking and looked like they're having a nice time. As we approached Forge Hill Road, maybe a mile back, we noticed they were talking and not paying attention too well, those guys in that pickup. At the intersection of Forge Hill Road, there's a left-hand turn lane. For us that are going south, there's a left-hand turn lane for people that were heading north. And in the northbound left turn lane was a car with a man and a woman in it. They were elderly, it turned out. Instead of waiting for us to go by or making the turn and just stepping on the gas, they inched out very, very slowly. In a very short time, Patty and I saw what was going to happen, and we both screamed. Didn't do any good. The pickup truck, they didn't see him till it was too late. There wasn't even a brake light, and they hit him at full speed, crashed into him, T-boned him on the passenger side. Patty stopped, put her blinkers on, and got out and ran over to see what she could do for him. They were both either out cold or dead. I got out, took Patty's camera, 35 millimeter, and I took pictures right there from our perspective of what was there, where the vehicles were, the people that were inside, standing next to our car. I stepped back and got a view of the whole area. Threw the camera back in the car, ran up Forge Hill Road to a home and knocked on the door and asked them to call 911. I was amazed. It seemed like only about 5 minutes and the New Windsor Fire Department was there at Forge Hill Road and Moodna Creek. Well, Forge Hill Road and 9W. Right behind him was the New Windsor Police. It was amazing. About the time that they'd secured those two people that were devastated in that car, the policeman started making contact with people to find out who'd seen what, and he got to me, and I told him I'd seen the whole thing. He started taking notes, told him who I was, where we lived, what we're doing here, and that I used to live in New Windsor. He kept asking questions. I finally said, I think I can save you some trouble and help you out. And I knew what he was thinking. Oh, yeah, right. I told him about the film. He said, can I have it? I said, of course. He rolled it up back into the cartridge and put it in his pocket. I said, if you've got a big pad, I'll write out exactly what I know, what I saw, and all the details for you. I said, I've done this for a living. He gave me a big pad, sat me down in the back of the squad car. And I made mention, I've never sat back in one of these before. And he said, that's all right. Lots of other people have. He closed the door, gave me my privacy, and about 45 minutes later, I'd filled up a couple pages worth of information. Time of day, road condition, apparent temperature, the traffic, what was there, what wasn't there, all that kind of thing. He thanked me for it. He said, the other pictures on your roll of film, we'll send them back to you, but the ones of the accident, those and the negatives, we're going to keep those. I said, I understand. That's no problem. At that point, we got in our car and we left. A couple of weeks later, I got a phone call one morning. It was from the state of New York. It was a state attorney. He was informing me that I was probably going to be subpoenaed to come back there and testify in this case. He verified who I was and what I generally knew. And I said, well, if you subpoena me, you're going to have to get me plane tickets, room and board, and a car, and probably pay for my wages as well. He says, yeah, that's part of the deal. We'll take care of that. I said, well, I can do it a little quicker and cheaper for you. And I could envision his eyes rolling up. I told him about the photographs that I'd taken. I told him about the report that I'd written, that I'd dated and signed. I gave him the name of the police officer that had these items in their possession, and that they contact them. I'm sure that you'd have some copy and some information that you may not need to have me fly back and do that talking. 2 days later, another call. Mr. Lynch, thank you for the photos. Thank you for the report. We won't be needing you to come down here to testify. It looks like it's all taken care of. I had to ask him what happened to those two people that were hit. He said, well, the lady, she was dead on arrival to the hospital, and the man, he died about 6 days later. I asked him, those two people that are driving the pickup truck, were they impaired with alcohol? He says, no. We gave him a breathalyzer, we checked him out, and there is no impairment. He says, why do you ask? And I says, well, because when the police department was there and the fire department had just shown up, I walked over to that pickup truck because I had to know. I stuck my head in their window, the driver's window, and asked them if they're okay. And as that driver spoke, my nose was no more than a couple inches from his mouth. I was smelling to see if there was anything, and I couldn't detect. Oh.